Welcome in, everyone, to Michael Tharp EDU. It starts with you. Today, we're going to continue our series on critical theory by looking at a video called Abolitionist Teaching and the Future of Our Schools from June 23rd, 2020. We're going to be mostly hearing from Dina Simmons, who is telling us that social emotional learning is white supremacy with a hug, unless it's done through a critical theory lens. I want you guys to understand this is not just some random person on the internet. Very accomplished, well-respected in academia. Dina Simmons is an activist, educator, and student of life from the Bronx, New York. She is the assistant director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence and an associate research scientist at the Yale Child Study Center. She writes and speaks nationally about social justice and culturally responsive and sustaining pedagogy, as well as creating emotionally intelligent and safe classrooms within the context of equity and liberation. She is the author of the forthcoming book, White Rules for Black People. So what you guys have to understand is, all of that language in there is Marxism. And once you understand, how they speak and the words that they use, again, Marxists share your vocabulary, but they don't share your dictionary. So let's see and find out what she has to say when it comes to social emotional learning and critical theory.
Yeah.
Dina, you've warned that people are going to take this too lightly, like checking a box, having a workshop, reading one book, and especially in your field of social emotional learning, that people are going to say, oh, well, we do social emotional learning, so that covers it. We're good. You've called that white supremacy with a hug. What do you mean by that?
So first of all, thank you for saying that. First of all, our schools are steeped in white supremacy. I think we made that really clear. So
what I want you guys to understand and get out of this video is that once social emotional learning gets into a school system, the powers that be, academia, cultural pressures, media, government, are going to tell you that unless you are viewing it through a critical theory lens, that it is white supremacy. So again, she's going to explain all this to us, and I look forward to hearing her opinions.
To me, I always tell people, it doesn't matter what your curriculum is. If you put it in a system without any lens that is abolitionist, that is anti-racist, it can be used as a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So abolitionist, what she's saying there, these are all critical theory, Marxist terms, anti-racist, and we're going to find out what all these mean. But essentially, she's just saying, unless you're viewing this through a critical theory lens, white supremacy.
So I think oftentimes social emotional learning and equity get conflated. They're like, but students are talking about their feelings, and I think it's important. I'm a proponent of social emotional learning if it doesn't create harm. We can use anything in education to create harm. And let me tell you, good intentions don't equal good outcomes. Right?
I could not agree with her more here. Anything we do in education can create harm. So I'm really, urging you guys to understand and get educated when it comes to critical theory and social emotional learning, because I want you to really decide and look at the facts and, the writings of these people to see, is this creating harm for students in our K through 12 public education system?
Right? So people are like, but I meant well. Like when I told you that you were articulate, I really just was meaning well. And your hair, and when I touched it, I thought it was exotic. And I'm just like, y'all, that's a great intention, but you are harming me because what you've done is you dehumanized me. And so I think a lot of what we do, regardless of it's a SEL or mindfulness or any of these things, if the educator has not done the work, if the school is steeped in white supremacy, then guess.
So one quick thing here, again, I'm trying to teach you guys and get you to understand how Marxists talk. You're going to hear the work a lot. And what that means, it's kind of like a dog whistle or a virtue signal for doing Marxist work. So you're going to hear that repeatedly as we look at these educators of the work and what that means.
That's what that curriculum is, a white supremacist curriculum. And so I said, if we don't apply an equity lens, a racial equity lens, an abolitionist lens, an anti-racist lens to racial justice lens, you name it, very easily SEL becomes white supremacy with the hug. Because what happens is now is
So you have to apply these lenses. Every lens she mentioned is a Marxist view of critical theory. You have to apply this to social emotional learning. That's what she's saying here.
SEL is being used as another way to distinguish black children, black and brown children, everyone else, and white children. So now it's like, those students really don't know how to control themselves. We just, we should do that SEL program with them, and then maybe they'll learn how to manage their behaviors. And I wouldn't, they can have that self-control and stuff like that. But you can't talk about self and social awareness without talking about white supremacy, right? And when we talk about the narrative of social emotional learning, and we're thinking about how to apply that in more privileged schools and more white schools, what you get is our students need this for college and career readiness. So these two narratives of like why SEL is important is, again, how are we using a tool to further disenfranchise the already disenfranchised? So again, anything that you do without applying an abolition lens, an anti-racist lens, a racial justice lens, all of that stuff can be used as a weapon, and it can be used as a weapon of white supremacy. So don't.
Again, I appreciate Dina's honesty and letting us know what she really thinks, in that if a school district adopts social emotional learning and you're not looking at through a critical theory lens, an abolitionist lens, again, these are all just critical theory Marxist kind of creations that they've come up in academia. So again, imagine what is a school going to do when they get pressure from the government, from media, from teachers that are into this type of mindset, that listen, we have social emotional learning, but we're not doing with a critical theory lens. We are promoting white supremacy. What are most school boards and administrators going to do to this type of pressure from this woke Marxist culture?
Coming here with that Trojan horse SEL talking about, but it's here for the kids, without doing that work. We need anti-racist.
So I love what she said here is social emotional learning is a Trojan horse for white supremacy. So what you have to understand about Marxists is they often use projection, meaning what they are doing, they will tell you that's what you are doing. Now, I believe, and a lot of people as well, that social emotional learning is the Trojan horse to get critical theory and Marxism into schools and indoctrinate children. I don't know what I don't know if she really thinks that SEL is white supremacy Trojan horse. I'm not really sure what she's saying there, but again, you have to understand that projection is a very powerful tool that the Marxists will use to kind of gaslight you.
Is healing. And like I just wrote a piece that if you can't be trauma informed if you're not talking about racism.
You cannot be trauma informed unless you're talking about racism. So you have to understand this critical theory worldview lens views everything through racism, whether it's history, literature, art, sports, music, anything you could possibly think of must be viewed through a racial lens. That is all that matters to them. That's why, I prefer the term of race Marxism rather than the old Marxism they call vulgar Marxism, is where you view everything through like an economic lens, and it was more the bourgeoisie, versus the proletariat. Now they have evolved to have race be the central construct.
A lot of us, like me, I walk in with my racial trauma. I walk in when folks, have said something about the way I spoke or the way I pronounced things. But then you want to give me a hug you want to give me some trauma-informed instruction without addressing the trauma of racism, the trauma of white supremacy. So we're just like what you said, Bettina, we're just putting Band-Aids on. We need to understand that whatever you apply to a school system right now, the way it is, which is seeped in whiteness, is seeped in white supremacy, can very easily be used as a weapon. And so that's why, without that lens, SEL is white supremacy with a hug. You could put a smile in there too if you want, but basically.
So there you go, guys. I mean, this is a leading advocate in education. She's talking with other people that have PhDs that are on Yale and other boards, and they're telling us, right? If your school district brings in social emotional learning, and they're not doing it through a critical theory, abolitionist, social justice lens, it is still just white supremacy. So, our school boards and our administrators, I'm sure, have good intentions, and they think what they are doing is, helping bring unity and racism and all that. But I want them to understand and really and grasp and learn what is critical theory and what is its actual goal. And once you understand that, you're going to see that if you bring in social emotional learning, you're going to be pressured and coerced to make sure it's through the Marxist lens that they want you to view the whole world in. And if you don't do that, you will be ridiculed, you will be manipulated, and you will be coerced into running your social emotional learning exactly how they want you to do it. So I hope you guys found some value in this video today. The link to the entire video will be down below if you want to watch it. Obviously, YouTube is not big on this information getting out. If you guys can like this video, comment anything down below of what you're going through in social emotional learning or critical theory in your own school district. Subscribe to this channel, share this out to anyone to help them get informed about what is critical theory and how it relates to social emotional learning. Would truly appreciate it. All right, we'll see you guys in the next video in this series. We'll talk to you guys soon.